All right, good morning. It's about 8:26 and the weather is really good and moist, cloudy weather on the 28th. I'm gonna set up real quick and do 50 to 100 gallons here. There's no rain in the forecast. So it's green, it's cloudy, it should spruce up or something, spin up quickly into rainmaking conditions. Just a little bit of hydration and stimulation on these trees. I'm going to go to new trees first and trees that are not as watered as other trees, and then I'll show you what I did and see what changes. Okay, this is video, much of it sped up and very, very cut, just showing the basics of how you do a stimulation watering. It's so simple that I don't feel like I have to share every detail. So all you're seeing here is a man take buckets that are 5 gallons and start putting water in them from a hose, a garden hose. And so I'm just putting water in them to get the debris out that's collected. This is actually the first watering I've done in 3 months with buckets since leaving California. So speeding it up, moving buckets around, and then I'm going to talk a little bit in the video about what the bucket is. All right, so most of these buckets just have a single hole in them. There's a 1 on them. This is an older bucket, so the one's a little faded right now. 5-gallon bucket. I'm going to fill each bucket with water. The single hole is so it goes drip, drip, drip. I want it to trickle slowly. I don't want to see flooding around the tree. I want to see it absorb every drop of water, just like when you get a nice glass of water and you can drink slowly at your own pace to rehydrate. That's what we're going for. And then back at it here, you're going to see me throw water out of the buckets. When I do this, I'm trying to moisten the air. I'm trying to get it onto the leaves. When I've been a little more in the rhythm of doing the tree watering sessions, I remember to start with what I call moistening the air, which is just what you're seeing here. Me taking slightly filled buckets and throwing the little bit of water into the air. And then here I go placing a bucket. I've got a little piece of limb there, broken off wood, to angle it so that it'll just sit there and drip until it's completely empty. Towards that hole in the bucket, I put the hole right up next to the trunk. And yeah, the process is really to kind of awaken the air to the idea of being moist. So you get the air going. The air is a network that the trees interface through. If you moisten it up, the trees know that moisture is coming. This is my sense. This isn't hokey pokey talk. This is having worked with them. They seem to work best when you ease into it, but it doesn't take long. This whole watering that you're watching here is like, I think it took me 25 minutes. And a lot of it's just, the physical time of a bucket filling. So you fill every bucket individually. It takes 2 minutes or so to fill the bucket. As you're filling them, first you want to get the debris out with a little bit of loose water that you're going to fling into the air. You just saw that again up close. As the air gets moist, you are starting to move full buckets onto trees. You start with the biggest trees first. So you see those 2 buckets at the back of the frame. These are next to the biggest live oak tree there. Now I'm using the hose just to lightly moisten the bark on that big tree. And this is a little bit of an intuition thing. Now I'm pouring the debris up against the base of that live oak. It just depends on the conditions, literally kind of, patient by patient or tree by tree. So in this case, that tree, I just had a sense that the bark on that tree needed moistening, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to get both of those buckets draining on it right away. after I'd just done a little bit of moistening into the air. And now you see me looking up into the air, and now I'm sped back up, but looking up, kind of going, okay, what next? And I decide to stay focused on that tree. So at this point, there's 4 buckets, 2 in the foreground and 2 in the background, now 5. Going over on the conifer. Choosing a different bucket there because it's going to drain at the right speed. Some of the holes are bigger than others. Some of the buckets have 2 holes in them. And so the slower ones are always great. The fast ones are only great when you're trying to really kind of spread water out in a measured way. And yeah, just filling buckets and waiting for them to drain out. Now I'm moistening into the air and onto the leaves using the hose. And this is just my thumb. You don't need to have an expensive, fancy garden nozzle. You just need to be able to have water pressure coming out of a hose and the physical ability to do this. And you see the hose water being moved sort of top to bottom. I start up in the canopy area and flicker the water around, and then I come down. And what I'm doing is tracing the trunk as it goes up into the canopy on each of these trunks. Trace it all the way down. And it's just this kind of thing. And then in a minute, I'm going to be on the outside trying to moisten them and just getting the water moving onto the other side of their trunks. The point of this is now I'm moistening the tree, the roots of the tree, the foliar aspect of the tree, which is really important scientifically. That's where the known activity happens in terms of moving moisture through the air. And then the air and the soil around the tree. It's not even saturation at this point. It's just enough for the tree to really know it. And at this point, it's still pretty warm outside, so the water is colder than the air also. They are sensitive to that as well, of course, like any being would be, sensitive in their own ways. And yeah, here I am just spraying on the outer aspect of the trunks. You can see the twizzle and the thumb on the edge of the hose. And I did this tiny grove of relatively immature trees. These are live oaks that I'd say on average are about 14 inches in diameter, maybe 12. And a conifer that's around 10 inches in diameter. And a few additional trees in there, smaller conifers and live oaks. Just getting the whole thing, enough moisture again so that it knows it's wet for a few minutes. And then the system can actually hold that moisture. And because it's wet externally and because the big trees are getting moisture onto their trunks, the whole system starts to circulate. You can think of it like a little circulatory or vascular system, but as a family instead of as a single body. And that's why every limb and every leaf matters. Okay, and now here I am talking live again. So all I did was just fill up about 55 gallons in buckets and spritz around the trees, as you saw. Kind of recreate an ideal rain shower just for a few moments, as high as I could get it, to try and get them to catalyze some greater interaction with the atmosphere and all of the vegetation that's around us. And there's the neighbors. Dogs are going wild in the neighborhood. But you can see we've got rainwater here. It goes through a filter, but it comes out a little yellow sometimes, pollen and stuff. It's still actually safer to drink than almost any other water in the world. Super clean and super well filtered, and so it's just like pollen. The dogs are going nuts. Pollen, and it's still kind of the cleanest water you can get is rainwater through a ultraviolet filter and particle filters and so forth. So yeah, this is what this looks like. I'm just gonna go do 20 more gallons. All right, now I'm down here near the bottom of our property line and just putting 2 buckets on these small trees. I just feel like a little trigger, a little moisture right in this corner. All right, so it's now 9:25 a.m. and those are the last 2 buckets. I also did a good amount of spritzing, just again superficially through this whole area onto stomata and trunks. You can kind of see it didn't get on all the trunk here. I'm really trying not to use water because we're low, but you know, wet this surface. You see a little bit on the roof there. And the goal is just to get it to start moving in the air and trigger something that may be present in the system that's not being accounted for by the meteorological technology, the satellites and the algorithms. Anyway, we sure do have good clouds and you know, sort of potential for a spin up or a build up. All right, now it's 9:56 a.m. I can't be sure, but it sure looks like the areas just downwind of us have already had a little bit of rain showers, and we continue to kind of percolate in a moist gray way here. So yeah, I'm always shocked and not surprised at these kind of rapid systemic shifts. Definitely no rain in the forecast, so the fact that now they have little showers, you know, 50 miles downwind is really, really interesting. Well, my first thought just getting on the road is should be able to get something. Now, I haven't been out for any length of time to really know that yet, but it feels like it's encompassing this coolness, this billowy quality in the air. I kind of compare it to a comforter, a real down, lightweight, fluffy but covers your whole body kind of feeling that you like. Not silky, but billowy, like soft pillow. All right, I am back. We are watering. My goal was to be up and running by 11 or 11:30 at the latest, and it's 11:15. So life is good. I can feel the darkening. Yeah, I hadn't even looked up yet. Happening as we speak, intensifying. So hopefully that's a good indicator that we're gonna get what we want. Ah, shoot. That might have been too. So I don't want to try and film while doing this. One of the reasons. All right, so over to this other kind of station. So yeah, it's now about 11:20. It's 11:57 a.m. Been noticing this standing water stuff. It's like the soil is having a really hard time absorbing moisture. I've never seen it like this. Just standing there, not sinking in. So that's probably a big part of the reason we're not getting rain out of these clouds, is that the whole system is just closed biologically to protect itself. 11 p.m. I'm getting raindrops. Very, very small, infrequent, but definitely raindrops. So, boom, see how it grows. Well, it's 12:32 p.m. Hadn't been long since I started. About half of the water is out, and I've been paused for 10 minutes. I'm gonna wait at least 5 more, maybe 15 more. It is slowly dimming and darkening. There's rain really close by. So yeah, we'll just see what the system does. All right, it's 2:10 p.m. I'm on my way out. I'm leaving a little more water in the other tank for when I return. I'm running really late for very important event. We got sun back, but we've also got extremely heavy clouds right here, right with us. And then they thin and disappear, I guess. Yeah.